Acts chapter 11. And I want to start off by having us listening to the first 4 verses of chapter 11.
Ma tana ma pe memeda prenya putih he ma dushita ba peninda ite ma puta tira lui
Dunya puna prezu ite pude a ode yuda ke po te potehine ani huna yuda pu ma to tehi ni be ke ha chamaria ala ngo punara bi khu petru chude vi rushali akhene prezu inya I pude adutli patehine adiate sude lukhu ra esi he khu petruna neji ole tugo yuda pu ma to de adutli ku phato de he hira neji eji oto ko tuna asi ra khu petru he so lup lope lo esi terite kyade acha thu thya lude akhashi tu de adadunu de he po de chu.
So, you remember that Kupetru was giving the gospel to the Gentile group.
ana petoma ne ma da kupetro no ko he akui muta he swali sa ser ma jiru ma to te he sinaka.
And at first, Kupetru didn't want to do that because Gentiles were unclean and should not be you should not be close to them, eat with them, and deal with them.
Anida kena esi anima mada esi jurpusi na ma asima thada ko he kena jurpusi ma to te he ani ho chumna ngon me te ne ma esi ngi na ma aiswana da jurpu ma to ne ma be ish eni luto abe kubosani luto abe upuni luto ko.
So when the apostles in Jerusalem and other believers, when they heard that Kupetru had been dealing with Gentiles, they were upset.
Nimena da Jerusalem ku da Israel ku no ko he esi mite da jurpusi to ne kripusi te he ani ho da Kupetru no ha a he iswali sa se da jurpu ma to te he akashe no ha esi nasipla duga.
So remember, Gentiles were supposed to be unclean. And so if God wanted his people, the Judapu, to stay away from them so that they did not take on their religions.
Ni da ba esi swana ma da jurpu ma to te he ne ma esi atore to ai na ko he mite ne ma kira ne jurpu si akube swalu au to esi ne ma sana jurpu si ne ma ala krameka esi te ku be ya susi te he ba.
Does anyone remember how a Gentile could become a follower of the God of Israel?
Mo pe singi pe to ma pe na ko he da jurpu ma to te he ne ma da esi la kraka bia se shu lango asi twa go kripu ne ma thamute.
If you were a Gentile and you wanted to follow the God of Israel back then, what could you do?
Ni te ne ma ko he da ke esi a sha ke bana ke ne ma da jurpu ma to te pre na ko ena ni ho no be ka bia se shu lango bia se shu kri lango si are kana ba asi twa go kripu ne ma ba sha ke ba ke ne ma ami si twa ne ma ami che kreti.
Any ideas?
Si te ne ma ko ai sho go mesra ina.
Well, if you wanted to follow the true God, you had to basically become like the Judapu and follow the law and all their rules.
Ni da ke ne ma esina asi twa go kripu ne ma re lo te chena ma esi be e ni sa na jurfu te pre ko he da jurfu si ale benida te panana me kraite sana BACO to the journey ma esina ma be in to ga sana abe mila cross na jurfu.
You would have to take upon yourself all the laws of Kumose, which were very heavy, and that's what you had to do.
Nigera na esi jurfu ma to prayer si talk kripu na ma abeni da lo leader ma pemoze te so isiana go head lo te so isiana ma tu ne neo in ne go mena gene get the prayer si talk kripu na ma beni da lo.
But now these believers and the apostles, they heard that Kupetru had given the gospel to these Gentiles, and they hadn't become like the Judapu.
They hadn't?
No, they had not first
okay.
become like the Judapu.
Ni mena wa da Judapu si te he na da te ma predinga pu si te he na go ha mite ani ho ma te Judapu ma to si te he na ha ani ho na be ka bia se shukri te la ngo ha ba esina thani kripu ma na da ala te chena ma esi esen ni na le ala kram ni na le Judapu to wa ma na esi thani kripu cho na wa esi na ani ho na a che to asana asi plot du go.
And so Kupetru explained to them that in a vision God had showed him that now the Gentiles were no longer unclean. Now they were clean.
Manana Kupetru na wa adum ai sho me Judapu si go hena o ma da bia se a chomre na wa data me thalu tu go hesa na do mo me ku na ba ai sho ka kya se Judapu si na order chomre ish adum me da po si ai sho wa de chena ma da Judapu si ma to te hina esi na ma ite atware ke ha ku ne ha ai se ai e pa to mu me ma to.
In that vision 3 times the sheet was lowered down from heaven, and they saw all these unclean animals that now God says were clean.
Ni da Kupetru mo me ku na ma ite chomre a data sana ike so hu go he so hu na ba so hu lo pli na ma da adum me luna te put le si ma to te na go ta mu me te he to re to te he na go mana chomre hina o te put le si te na a te a to re to bote be ga ku ne ne ma a to re lo ke ha chomre sho ma Kupetru go.
So 3 times Kupetru was shown that the animals were now clean, and then at the door, at his Kupetru's door, came the 3 Gentiles, and he understood that now these Gentiles were clean.
Ninda mo me ku na ma chomre data ike na ma so hu he na ba ba mo me thoa ke na da ke dok doblu ko da ko na ba ite Kupetru a the me shulu na ma a pre dog da na ma ite Judapu ma to au si so ko me na bana ke Kupetru na singe na o ma da Judapu ma to si so na ma ate ama da chomre du me lu da le mo me ku ike ta so hu na ko he me na ma ai shulu na ma da Judapu ma to te he na ma to re ke ha.
And then Kupetru also explained that when he gave them the gospel and they were saved, then they began to speak with other languages just as the Judapu had done on the day of Pentecost.
Pada ite Kupetru na ai show si ko he da ba na tan na Kupetru ai swa ka Judapu ma to te he da sala ngona ko he bana ke asana da ke si Judapu si ha plot chulu na he mete esi o ta phake lo ya ke lu do si na ma ite Judapu te phana te phema ale alangona ma ko ke ko he mana da mite he plot chulu na te prena esi thona te phana ma ai be ko bate ma singi lu te ai be the che ko mena ti ba na tan na Kupetru ai swa ka Judapu ma to te he na ma Judapu ma si to te he na ma ai be tho the sana Judapu lango ko.
So when the gospel came to the Judapu, they spoke in other languages. And now when the gospel came to the Gentiles, they spoke in these other languages.
Ne sana da ke ma Judapu si ani ho no be se shukri ma li sana ko he bana ke ma Judapu si esi langona wa asingi langona ma sana da te phan ma lango ma ko ba ma da esi singi set lu mana sana ku ne te si de Judapu ma to te he na ani ho no be ka bia se li sana ma esi le hibe the ma langona ma asingi lo pli go.
this was a sign for the Judapu that what was happening, it was what God was doing.
ni ba estimate ke mana jurpu si ma to te he ai a to te sana de ke na ma ba jurpu na bisi nie ko he ba a ko a sha ke na ma da chomre amit me.
And then Kupetru said, these Gentiles, now saved, were baptized also.
To ma da jurpu ma to te he SCG ke chomra ngo te he na ko he na ba di chomre misiple ka to ke esina but Kupetru no ha de a cheke esit prenda prina thago.
Now, these apostles and these Judapu believers, now they understood what God had done.
Mina kun ne na ma da predenya pu te he to pone da jurpu ma to te he na asinge ha ko da chomre na ma asime te pita ma te na asite asinge go.
And would you play verse 18? This is what the apostles and the Judapu believers said in verse 18.
Anama mapu shitio maba aken ma predenya pu te he to pone kripu te he na a hi te go ba ani ho thoa mat amet ani mem amet thoa ani ho thoa mate tho te kretin.
Bi esini hu teri te ja I akene esi pachi ishi ba ku petruto ro atu setia la ya chomariana
ki amala ko phunu hero chomra depe ko ho yuda phu mato te he te so carrier de aku pya ya shalia ko le ya afero aku ni be ko le ya sa chu pre ho.
And so now they understood that Gentiles could become part of God's church without becoming like the Judapu and being under the Judapu law.
Ni kun ne na ma da kripu te he preji chomra ngo te he to pone da te prenya pu si te he na singe ko he da jurpu si ma to te he na asi thwa kripu na ma asi na ma thwa kripu da chomre sro ku ma ni ko mi te asi te ne ra na ma he na o kene ki te pre asi thwa ka kripu ne ma asi be ni da la kralo lo mi ka jurpu si at ni no ko he ma na kun ne ma singe na de ki te pre na si thwa kripu ne ma allo la krami se pa na jurpu si to allo ni da pa da pemoze te so sia to ko.
Now, this was a great controversy, and this is not the end of that controversy, trying to understand about the Gentiles becoming part of the church.
Ni mana da ite da esi sraku no ma asi esi bela khada jurpu ma to te he sinema esi le helu ma elo go esi asena ona alikya shu no elo ga sana atope te keto.
It became still a great controversy, and at one point we'll see in this book that the apostles had to the church and the apostles had to come together and handle this problem.
Ni da me te da esilo bela kha ma jurpu ma to si te he na ha te na a la kha ma te na la kha to me na sana esi le kya shu na du the na go he but no solo no ha ite prenya fu si te he to ne da sraku sra du si te he na be he shu lu na ba be he na o abe heme tho ke ami hem be abe heme tho ke na da esi le kya shu lu na go.
This is Israel, and when Kupalu brought the gospel to all these many other places, he had to still fight against this controversy. He still had to struggle with those that were teaching the wrong things about the law.
Anida ba Kupetru atwa do Israel senama ona ite akabe methodish titi ma da ye iswa sulu te hina go sana da ite ma pemoze te so sia na go he te hina ma apa kina ma ani da ploto asinge tate to ne ma iswa su te ke se me na wa sana Kupetru na ma chop te pote ma abe mi rega se abe pato titi ka ra ku go.
One of Paul's letters in the New Testament was written to churches in this area.
Da Kupalu alisa sa kunuma ara li no go su cha to da ba sara you do benu the po no ite asucha to ba sara ku benu ku
That was the letter to the Galatians.
da arali na ma asija su cha da ma de te Galatia ku
And in that letter, he says, you cannot put the gospel and the law together. You either have to be saved by the law, impossible, or you have to be saved by the gospel.
ni bana keda li sa ada sa ali gu ma ahilo na ahi sho ke si ga hina order si ma pre kripu si si ne ma si be ni dalo lo pli da pemoze te so te ma to ma da pemoze te so sia to na da chomre la ngo si na ma abichi chi ni lu to ko he da si si ple ka ne ma si ni dalo lo pli pemoze na ba si to kripu to ba mi si ple ka na ma ni to to mi te na ma si lo si mi si ple ka ne ma o to da ba pia se shu de ta la tangu na me ko
Any questions about that?
si le shu da chi chi o na blower.
Because even today, there is misunderstanding about how we become right before God.
Mi te ma kunne na ma te he si na ma atenisu na o elo ka hu da si twa ki ya to re da chumre bi singi na ma bi mi krai te na ma te mai swara ro te te na ma si le swa ma ko de le je ma ko de ko
We become right before God because of what Yeshua did on the cross, not because of the way we follow the rules and the laws of the Old Testament.
ani na pingi na ma da pe si twa re da chumre bi singi ne ma au tu ve da pe je ma ite bia se shu kri ai sa bi pingi da hitlu na ma ko he ne pe je sho bo na ne ma da pingi ne ma a twa re ga de tsna pe te sin ma pli ga de ko na te he na ma tin ne na ite asi la kra mi sa na da ma pemoze ite so sia ne ma asi na ma twa re da chumre bi singi pa tin ni me na o te he ko
Anytime you have questions, just ask.
ni ke si le shu da te che o ne ma me ko sa na ba shu de ma ni me ko
Now, we already know that when there was great persecution, remember there was great persecution in Israel, and believers began to leave Jerusalem and scattered to other places.
ani pe to ma ma da ke si do Israel ku no ko jur fu do ku sin ma da kripu sina at ke mi salu na in ne ko me te kripu sia sa no in ne na ha si ke ta pa lo da do ro si ko
And so groups of believers began to spring up in other places. Like we talked about Damascus. That was where Kusalu was going when Yeshua met him on the road.
to wa sa na da do Damascus ku no ko he da jur fu sina he plo shu lu na te hina a ka ta pa o wa u na to ki hina ko e sinema a si he te che ko ba Damascus do ku no ma da ke ku palu a chocolate bo no ba a me tho shu bia se shu he na ba a me chat do Damascus ku ko
Would you play verse 19?
Umesi Kusative Akuaki Satia Binero Umi Jimmy Tukayada Azuka Nyaka Yishu the he Punero Esi Lupra Lokli the he hina Achutuda Vonike Kupru Kluku Na VRTO Esi Hesu Dunya Pitu Pre Yuda Pusi the hina Chomaria Allah Mupre.
So the apostles began to hear that there were groups of believers in different places. Like, it mentions Phoenicia and Cyprus, this island here, and also this city, Antioch.
ani bana ke da predinga pu si te no ani ho go he da kripu si aklo o kleva o ko si te he si no ha o do na he so do ku no go he ma ite jurpu si esi ma jurpu kripu si te no a si he ka esi he plus lu no ba ai sa na hi tho the hun go si no ga predinga pu si ani ho ka
So the believers that went to these places, they were preaching about Yeshua, but they were only preaching to Judapu people.
Ni da doba aku si te he pe he da bne te he si na ma da ite preji chomra ngo si te he jurfu preji chomra ngo si te he na ai swa ka chomra la ngo he na ma na ai swa te de ver jurfu si ve te he ve ko.
Would you play verse 20?
Naro ku pru klu phuna vi ku rin ni phu de azu ka nya ka te akle te hi hi ne a chu tu de vi ati oro a hi su du nya pe mi chu su kri phu te hi na Yeshu kri ate sa kru mi la ari akya.
Now, this is something different that happened.
Manaba ada hu na ma atwa te ko de ki.
There were believers from this island and also believers from a place in North Africa.
Da ba pe method mun na ma esi kripus di oplo shulu na ma oda sana da ma da mun esi thake esi hiku amte thake ma autovana thar hi na go na ba obna te hi to na oda ma ide South Africa da akula te hi.
They had been scattered from Jerusalem during the persecution, and they ended up in Antioch.
Ni manda ke mite kripusi asa enne ne na ho ke te hi a mite te kripusi jurfusi akla ke te na go ha te hi na ma ha wa oda domina Antioch.
But it looks like something different happened here. It looks like these men were preaching the gospel not simply to the Judapu, but also to Gentiles in this city.
Manana ede asana dora rosi to ko heda esi ma jufu krifus ti he a he to da do Antioch kuno ko he da pe method ma da ide preji chomra na ngo jufu ti he na ma ai swa ka chomra la ngo nei mai swa to tu de ba ko be swa hu da jufu si na ma ko he mana da do Antioch kuno ma da preji chomra la ngo si te he na ai swa lo pli jufu ma be jufu ma to be ko.
So when the apostles and the believers in Jerusalem, when they heard that there were these groups of Christians springing up in different places, they wanted to encourage these new groups.
Mena da do ma Israel kuno ko he ba predinya pus te he to mena da preji chomra la ngo te he ani ho na da dora rosi jufu si na asi shape to ona ai swa ke chomra la ngo ha mina ani ho no ha da esi oda do Israel kuno ma asi he shape ma to ko asi he ape ga esi na da iswa mo pe mi chari pa sa na ho ape lu ko.
So they wanted to encourage these groups, and they sent out the man Barnabas.
Me te da do Israel kuno ma asi apega ke asi da jurfu sira doro asi misi krisi logana asi lechi sheto ngina asucha ide preku ke the premina Barnabas ko.
Remember, Barnabas is the one that helped Kusalu and explained to other believers that he was now a real believer. It was Barnabas that did that.
Ma pe bezo ma ko hemba ma ena preku the premina Barnabas da prenama ami chwaka na ku solu ko heda Barnabas da prenama hina da engi na ma athoke ha kripua a he shota te ai te ke sana da juju pusina go.
So Barnabas traveled to these different places and encouraged the believers, and he ended up finally in Antioch.
Ni da Barnabas da prenama achwa do na ba achwa mite ne ma si chwa he si krisi lo he muhire ke sana juju pusi ma da asi shepo to te he na ko he ba na sholo na ba he to da do Antioch ku.
Antioch was a very important city in this area.
Ba pe me da ite juju pusi do thu si ne ma da Antioch na ma ado du ga do to res na da ate baby da du ga lu hu ko.
Barnabas stayed in Antioch. There was so much work to do in teaching people and bringing the gospel to this great city.
Nida Barnabas and our order do Antioch ma au nya ne ko mi te ne ma de esilu iswa chumra lango si alu ite phya chwa lisa se o ite to phona ma alu me pe ma chumra te me ma o elo ko.
At this time, Kusalu had gone back to his hometown in Tarsus, right here.
Ba Barnabas upada Antioch no ko he bana kenama the ku palu Paul
Yes.
ku palu no ha akato ka seda dogu ma da adogu ma outlet na puno ko ma amina Tarsus ko.
I call him Kusalu until later in this book where his name changes to Kupalu.
Ni kun ne ma sra e ku palu no ma e na ku solu ko mi te ne ma kelu no ma amwi ma ku no so ku solu he na ba da ba aji sho sho ga chong ma ngono ba pulle ga amwi na ku palu ko.
You remember that the Christians sent Kusalu back to his hometown because the Judapu were trying to kill him.
Ni mete betoma ko heda mete ku solu no ha be ka kya se da ado au le na pu mete he ne ma da ki sina si mi sana ne ku solu ko.
Now, there was so much work to do in teaching people in Antioch that Barnabas said, I need to get more help.
Mete da do Antioch no ko he mete lumit me da chumra ngi na ma au ishi lu no ha ku bana ko ina mina ma vel me beto ve lu cha e ka ki sira ro si mi chwa ve.
So who do you think Barnabas got to help in this great work?
Mina tani me ko he da ku bana ma mete ami lok pe che to no ha ada aprimi chwa lu no ma cha e mo pe tani me ko. So Grandma Lume says Kupalu.
That's right. He went and he got Kusalu.
Kupalu na de nga pena atan misa ke de ne te da timiti no go. Amisa heba dobre chata telo de klero ba. Atawde na hete de ri chen tem no kuna ti chiro priro li ati la ro to. Aka kya se de viro se lira uche che ba li ni ba kubara bana para amura kubalu ba ta barsa te chopyo ba unji no pe kubalu na he.
So Kupalu has like a bit of a reputation about being like killing people. So wherever he went, people still did not believe him. Even when he met Jesus on the way, and then he went to the next city, people still did not believe him. Were still scared of him. So he had to go back to I think Jerusalem, and that was when Barnabas helped him with his reputation.
Right. So now Kusalu has been in Tarsus, and God is teaching him. God is getting him ready to do a great work for him.
Da Kusalu no ma au pada ma do Tarsus kuno ko heda a do kuma o le no puno wa bana ke biase su no ai sona ne lo ko mi te na ma si mi ni lu na da nu pa lu bi mi krai te pa te na mi ni lu go.
Would you play verse 25 and 26?
5-6. Mapuni shinya na ni shisha.
Punu thura de chinu ku banaba temya pu ku cholu de vita tu aku bi amya thilu akhena ae kani lu de vi atio ro esi iseni ka ukumya thita suna prezu ite plomu phu bi nu de hi tana ya cho ro a isu isya tani e pila ke ya ubinu de hi u erila prezu ite phu de hi na kripuma bv atio yinu ha.
So they stayed there a year and taught in this great church.
Mana Kusalu na ku bana wa a order do Antioch kuno ma a uja tan na ku jo komite a Luisa biase shu lango sina a lo mi elona.
It takes time for God to teach and strengthen a believer to do the work that he has called that believer to do.
Ni da ke ta phre da phre nge na ma me te chomre asin no me lu ti chi chan no pa no me ne ne lu da chomre te phi de me ne ma chomre na ma be pon ne nya da ke ta phre nge ko he da be swa lu be me cholu si plo si be me ni lu na nya ne ko.
And we'll soon see the great work that Kupalu and Barnabas began to do.
To pa pe me tha pa ko he da khu ba nam ba na khu sa lu no ha a me da chomre te phi de me na ma me no credit te me thwa in ne ba te ne pe me tha ko.
Any questions?
Ani le si da te che o e.
Kupoluna, kusoluna ta sheme wila kupolu de ma. Ta sheme te la parle si le ba si.
So why did he change his name from Saul to Paul?
It doesn't tell us. It doesn't tell us exactly why, but all it says is that in this book, at one point he's Kusalu, and then all of a sudden he's called Kupalu. You know what? I'm going to find out what those names mean, and maybe that will help us understand. I'll find out.
Because like we were thinking that maybe because he has a bad reputation with the name Saul, that he changed his name to Paul.
That sounds like a good reason. That sounds like a good reason. And we'll see also what the names mean. But yeah, that might help him, huh?
Det riktigt är när man kokar lomma, kokar det roligt. Kokar det roligt, kokar och kokar det roligt. Av det kan man rida pekon i lihira. Av det tror det var det att uppat hur henne kokar det roligt. Bara men så låter det man pekon i li. Pekon i lina. Moke det så mycket bara. Ano sabi da kita para tuli ko puna hele pekon i li. Pekon i li ni sabu da ni so pas renama. Jobbe si plo ani a te to de jobbe o a hin. Dai choma ke jesin na no ta eka mo ko chimo ko petrude sa tu patruna. Adam we ko chimo hia mi la prana te kriakina ai. Ai pekon i li na ko pekon i li to ke jesin na ta ta tu patruna te eka ko petruna. Ko petruna ke je ta to ke to akina. Ko petru te de ki ko te so bi bara. The Huda Mokuna Naba Jeta Bikut Peter Ruda he Kunaga. They put the Lassie at a 2 foot Joe Fusina or the Hudu Kunaga. Who with the Ru Tomateti Samana Mokuna Mova Tiana he let go. Back with the Runa back, who not the glory in the cattle. They put the cattle and move plito as I said on a put to a hitching. Domere hina sa se domere hina mu plina ni lu hia mu me to a hilone. A te da lu so huba so hu to ba te pate la se mu mo kun ka.
Ani. Mana da dam nu na hina ku pon luo.
Ma ba pon lu ma mo hia. Ma
Ku pe ru ba he.
Ku le he dam mu na pe ru na. Te khu le he na ko na me ku la tina ma ra he te.
What did it say in chapter 11 verse 5? Did it just say blanket that came down 3 times? What's the word? A veil?
I think the word is something like maybe like a sail, a sheet or a sail from that type of.
Sana dam te bo kuno ko ma ade ma le ho ala te na te hina sana kuno ko hina.
Pe de na da khu le.
Te hule ma de like that.
Me ba. Oh.
We don't know what it means in Korean.
The sheet, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's just something that on the sheet would be all these live animals that Judapu could not eat. They were unclean.
Yeah.
Give a Petra on her.
Because like the interpreter or the translator, they sometimes use these words that we've never heard of.
Oh.
So we're saying like maybe he's just coming up with like words
I
by
see.
himself.
I've heard it translated sail, like a sail from a sail, but it's usually translated like a sheet, something that displays all the animals. Well, I love the discussion. That's great. Well, let's pray.